to talk about Stephanie Ruhle and a guy by the name of Rainn Wilson today, because Stephanie Ruhle went on Rainn Wilson's show and he kind of called her out a little bit, put her feet to the fire, just a little bit, nothing too crazy. Kind of similar to what happened to Elizabeth Warren in yesterday's video with Fregoso, Sam Fregoso, I believe that's his name. Forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. And if you haven't checked out that video from yesterday, definitely check it out. You are not going to want to miss Elizabeth Warren's reaction to her being questioned. So definitely check that out after this if you haven't seen it. But we got a similar situation in this video today. So with that being said, let's dive in.
Of Americans don't trust mainstream media. Why is that? How did we get here?
Listen, we are seeing a huge loss in trust of all of our institutions. It's the media, it's medicine, it's banking. It's a huge problem because when you think about democracy and all of these pillars, they need to stand tall, they need to stand strong. And sort of losing that trust is not by accident, it's by design. If you remember when President Trump was running the first time, Steve Bannon once said, the goal is to blow the whole thing up. And so I think that you've got mistakes made or things starting to slip, while at the same time there's a concerted effort to destroy the media. Because the media, the news media is, in my opinion, the last line of defense of holding power accountable, right? And you had a bit of a perfect storm, right? President Trump won, and tons of people were shocked or angry or frustrated, and they're tuning out. And at the same time, you have the Elon Musk media machine, because they want you to leave traditional media and they want you to go to X, which is a bastion of misinformation where there is no fact checking. So it's a perfect...
That's a lie. There's all types of fact checking. There's community notes. It's just not your personal fact checkers. That's the difference. It's not your personal fact checkers. You know, the same fact checkers that continually told us that the laptop was fake. Yeah, it's not those fact checkers, because those aren't real fact checkers. Those are Democrat propagandists. It's not the same fact checkers that came out and told us that 50 intelligence agents confirmed that the laptop is fake. No. Not those people. And it's not the people that would fact check us Republicans, right? Us conservatives, when we would say that the hoaxes that they would put out, like you guys remember the bloodbath hoax when they were running with that? Oh, Trump said if he loses, it's going to be a bloodbath. But they lied, because he wasn't talking about, a bloodbath in terms of killing people. He was talking about a bloodbath in terms of the auto industry.
Mexico has taken, over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it, went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
Boom. Lying by omission. Lying by omission. Like, technically, he did say bloodbath, but they left out the part where he was talking about the auto industry. Or you guys remember when they lied about the good people on both sides? You guys remember that? Well, here's a little refresher.
And you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
And
you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists.
Lying by omission. Did he say fine people on both sides? Yeah, he did. But if you just played it like another 60 seconds, he says that I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists, because they should be condemned totally. I mean, I think that's about as clear a statement as you can make. But they all said, oh, he's championing for the Nazis. Oh my goodness, how dare Trump? But he literally said, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists. They should be condemned totally. but they left that part out. Or you guys remember when they all lied about Joe Biden's mental capacity?
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
Don, you're asking me this question. Oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States. You know, I can't even keep up with him.
The most difficult part about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it, because he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
I can testify because I've been working very closely with this president for the past 2 years. I've been knowing him for 30 years. And I'm telling you, this guy's tough. He's smart. He's on his game.
Joe Biden has vision. He has knowledge. He has a strategic thinker.
The president is focused. He's detail-oriented. He's always thinking about the big picture.
That was a load of crap. Load of crap. And now she's wondering why. Well, why don't they believe us anymore? It's Trump. He's destroying the trust. No, you destroyed the trust. You destroyed it. People used to believe in mainstream media. People did. A lot of us did. I know I did. First thing I used to do every morning was turn on the news. Let me watch the news. The only time I turn it on now is just to see what's going on so I can make some content, right? But I used to watch the news on a daily basis, every single morning. Every single morning. You guys remember when they called this a Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden? Yeah, pretty crazy, right? Pretty crazy. Especially when you consider just outside that rally, you had this.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
On earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen! Hey, what will happen if we yell out Jesus King at a Trump rally? I did. High school, too.
Does that look like a bunch of Nazis to you? But that's the narrative that mainstream media chose to run with. It's a Nazi rally. Look, see, it's just a bunch of Nazis. That's why we don't believe mainstream media. Carry on.
Perfect storm of people saying, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm tuning out, I'm disconnecting. And then you have a force pushing it. But even in the last 2 weeks, what we need to do is just cover what's happening in America. Right? We have to cover Democrats trying to figure out what their lane is and how they're going to get back on their feet. And we have to simply cover what this White House is doing. And I think if we do that, right, there's that saying, you know, trust is gained in raindrops and it's lost in buckets. And it's not yes, you're not incorrect that the media has lost trust.
This is where I would push back. And in a lot of ways, I'm as lefty as they come. But when I see this kind of insight and passion being directed at the current administration, and the lack of this kind of insight and passion being directed at the previous administration, where, again, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about left-leaning news media organizations were kind of like, la, 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 everything's fine. Look, the the economy's great, la, 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 immigration's not that much of a problem. And really being Cleopatra, queen of denial. Thank you. Boom.
I would push back.
I will push back. Of course you would. Of course you would. And that is why mainstream media will continue to die off. See, the issue is, or I should say the solution would be, quite simply, if all of mainstream media just came out and apologized and said, you know what, we let our bias get in the way. We clearly wanted Democrats to win. We failed in that mission, and we won't ever do that again. We will start delivering unbiased news. And we will start with that today. And we genuinely see a shift in mainstream media where it's just not all. Have you ever noticed? And I had this conversation. I brought this up with somebody recently. Whenever you turn on mainstream media, it's all Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad. Like, when's the last time you turned on MSDNC or even CNN and you heard them say something good about Uncle Trump that didn't come out of Scott Jennings' mouth? When's the last time you turned it on and they said anything positive about what Trump is doing or Trump himself? About never, right? Isn't that a problem? Because the way that they try to make us look at Uncle Trump it's almost as if he's like the devil reincarnated himself. Like there's nothing good that Trump ever has done or his administration has ever done or currently doing. There's nothing good. Nothing. But oh, look at the Democrats over here. See, they're fighting. They're doing all these great things, all these phenomenal things. We're never going to criticize them, but we're going to criticize Trump every chance we get. If we saw a genuine change, I think eventually they'll get their trust back. Do I want them to have their trust back? Nah. Honestly, at this point, nope. Let them all crumble. But I think they could get it back if they did that. But what do y'all think? Let me know.
Back on immigration, I can specifically remember when Greg Abbott of Texas and Ron DeSantis of Florida sent those buses of migrants to different cities, different parts of the country, which ended up being politically genius for both of them. The media regularly talked about the fact that Biden was not doing enough in his first 2.5 years on immigration. Even though in the last year and a half, you're seeing the numbers go down, he just wasn't doing enough. And
that's a lie.
Saw it in how people voted, right? You had places like the Bronx, you had places like New Jersey, people who said, I'm not happy with immigration in this country. And that's why Democrats are scrambling to recalibrate now. But I do think that was covered. And I interviewed Vice President Harris in September. And I remember asking her, I said, nobody's eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio. However, there are lots of people who live there who aren't happy with the amount of immigrants who have moved there, legally or not, because now their hospitals are stretched and their schools are stretched. And that's the same thing in tons of communities in the country. You know, what do you say to that? And I remember her answer was, well, we had this immigration bill and Donald Trump blocked it. And she's right. So there's nothing to put, she's right. Donald Trump did block the bill. But that doesn't.
Once again, another lie by omission. Joe Biden has executive powers, just like Uncle Trump. Trump didn't need Congress to pass any bill to close the border. He closed it himself via executive orders. Trump didn't need any of that nonsense. And it also goes to show, see, when they try to criticize Trump for stifling the bill, so you mean to tell me somebody who wasn't even in office possibly could have even lost, according to mainstream media and the polls that they were trying to push, was going to lose, right? A guy who was projected to lose, according to mainstream media, and wasn't even in office, was controlling Congress still? Not he should just be running the country anyway, because the people who are supposed to be running it can't actually run it. They're letting this guy do it. So why not just hire him in the first place, right? If anything, that's an indictment against Democrats. You're in power, but Trump is stopping you. He's not even in office. It's crazy talk, right? I don't know, man. Let me know if y'all agree. That's just wild to me. How
it doesn't address how people in the country feel. And just getting mired in, well, we tried to pass this thing and it didn't happen. What Republicans have been successful at, and they have not solved any of these issues for the American people, but they're willing to say some of the ugly.
Also, I forgot to mention, people, especially on the left, always forget to mention that Republicans passed a border security bill and sent it up to the Senate. And it just sat on Chuck Schumer's desk for years. For years, it sat on his desk. Republicans in the House passed a bill to close the border, and mainstream media refuses to talk about it. Now, if that was a Democrat bill, they'll keep mentioning it like she just did in just a second ago. But have you noticed they never mention the Republican bill that was passed? They never talk about it. Never talk. I'm willing to bet that most people don't even know about it because they kept it so quiet in mainstream media. Goodness gracious. And she expects to get trust back. Nah.
But they're willing to say some of the they're willing to talk about some of the unpleasant things that people feel. That when people say those things out loud, they're immediately called, xenophobic or racist.
Yeah.
And we have to make space for how people feel. Do you know what I'm saying?
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
My mom and dad live in New Jersey.
Most people, a large majority of people who have a problem with the current immigration crisis and have for the last 5 or 10 years are not racist, but often kind of tarred as racist by the liberal left.
Boom. That is the monster they created themselves. You created this for your party. You did this. And now you have to deal with it. So the fact that you can't come out and speak your mind, that's your fault. They thought it was all fine and dandy when they were when their constituents, their voters were attacking us, right? But now they're stuck in that same chamber now. And actually, I think she talks about something here in a second. Check it out.
I will tell you, if you go on the internet, people there's loads of clips that will come after me.
I've heard about this internet thing. What is it?
After the election, I had not a debate, but a conversation with a friend of mine who was on the show. And I was making the point that I do not think Donald Trump's win means that half the country's racist. I don't believe that. This person really, really came at me that that's easy for me to say as a white woman of privilege that the country's not racist. But I think that...
Now, remember, she said that was her friend. Her friend basically called her racist. Simply because she disagreed. That's the monster you made, Stephanie Ruhle, as well as everybody else in mainstream media. Y'all made that monster, not us. And they're on your side of the political aisle. Have fun dealing with that. I will enjoy the show while I snack on my popcorn.
That's a very quick way to alienate people, right? Like I grew up in New Jersey, and I can tell you that when lots of people in New Jersey now drive over the bridge and it costs, I can't remember because I have Easy Pass, I think $16. And when they hear stories that migrants who live here get a cell phone, or they get to live they get to stay in a hotel, that infuriates people because we are living in this moment where, not a moment, in general, everybody wants to feel like life is fair. And right now, lots of different groups of people feel like it's good for this group, it's good for that group, but it's unfair to me. And I think with the immigration crisis, we as a country or political leaders didn't give enough space to people who say, they're not necessarily anti-immigrant, but they're saying, I'm American. I was born here. I went to school here. I work here. I pay taxes. I cannot make ends meet, because you're seeing the middle class get squeezed and squeezed. And they're pointing to other groups that are getting support from the government. And the people they're pointing to are migrants. And we need to give space to sort of hear those people, hear what their needs are. And instead, a lot of those people have felt like when they voice their opinions, they're treated like they're xenophobic and they're racist and they're anti-immigrant. And I don't think they are.
A lot of people have come on this show and talked about the toxic relationship to social media, the dangers it screens, the mental health connection to screens and to news and to doom scrolling, because we all know that what gets clicks, what gets people turning back in after the commercial, next up after the commercial, are your carpets killing you? I know that's more of a local news thing, right? And I get it. But so many people have come on the show. I can't even tell you, half our guests, and said, I don't watch the news anymore, and my life is so much better. I turn it off. I took Apple News off my phone. I don't even subscribe. I don't go on social media, and I don't read news articles, and I'm raising bees and growing poppies and washing my dishes and meditating, and my life is so much better and richer for it. So,
because the news is no longer the news. When's the last time, and this is a genuine question, when's the last time you turned on mainstream media, right, and you heard some heartwarming story? Some little boy whose parents were struggling to make ends meet and needed like an extra $100 to make sure that they didn't get kicked out, and he opened a lemonade stand on the corner and raised $200 and saved his family from getting kicked out the house, right? Or the little boy who saved his baby sister from being attacked by some dog or something, right? When's the last time you turned on mainstream media and you heard about, now the second one, depending on how you look at it, it's not that great of a story because, the boy probably was bitten, but it's kind of nice because he saved his baby sister, kind of deal. But my point is, when's the last time you turned on mainstream media and listened to or saw a good story? I'll wait. It's about never. It's all doom and gloom. Oh my goodness, the sky is falling. Oh, this dictator Trump, he's back again and he's destroying the economy. He's destroying everything. Hide your kids, hide your wife, hide everybody. We all gonna have to get deported now because he's deporting everybody. Oh my goodness, doom, 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 doom and gloom. By the way, you're gonna be killed by the bugs that are flying over here and the birds that are flying above your head. They're probably gonna come down and peck you away too. Like, it's all doom and gloom, and that's why people are turning it off. It's a bunch of crap, a bunch of BS, a bunch of lies. And I gave y'all examples of them at the beginning of this video, or earlier on in this video. Examples of blatant lies from mainstream media. Blatant lies. They knew Joe Biden was incapacitated. They knew he was done. They knew he was cooked. But they chose to lie about it anyway. Joe Biden's fantastic. Of course, the hardest thing about preparing for or getting a meeting with Joe Biden is preparing for the meeting, because he's attention oriented. He pays attention to detail. He's detail oriented, blah, blah. That was a load of crap. A load of crap. And they knew it, but they lied anyway. They all got on mainstream media and lied. Joe Scarborough. And F you if you can't handle this truth. This is the best version of Joe Biden ever. That's on national television. Joe Scarborough blatantly lied. Now, if that was Trump, oh my goodness. Y'all remember when Trump like walked down the slippery the ramp in his church shoes, right? And he was walking down slow, and all the mainstream media, oh my goodness, what's going on with Trump's health? Trump is declining, his health is bad, oh my goodness. Because he walked down a metal ramp that was wet slowly. So he didn't slip with all the cameras watching. But you let Joe Biden trip over a sandbag, or he wanders off like a lost freaking puppy, and oh no, that's cheap fakes. That's all fake news. That's Republican propaganda. That's MAGA right extremist propaganda. Really? And she's wondering why we don't believe them anymore. She's wondering why, even after a year of non-stop negative coverage for Uncle Trump, he still won. He still won. Ain't that incredible? Think about that for a minute. I think we all deserve to give ourselves a pat on the back. After over a year of just nonstop negative coverage on Uncle Trump on mainstream media, in comparison to what Kamala and Democrats had, which was basically all positive, Uncle Trump still won. And it wasn't even close. Won every single swing state, and he won the popular vote, which a Republican hadn't done in over 20 years. Ain't that incredible? Goes to show mainstream media doesn't have the power it once did. And the fact that they're still doubling down on this nonsense, at this point, see, for a while, I was hoping that they would turn it around. But at this point, I'm kind of happy that they're doubling down for a couple of reasons. One is better for me because you just send more people my way and away from the lies and the BS, right? But then also, it just helps us win more. Because they've lied so much and told so many egregious lies that it's woken people up to the truth. It's woken people up. One famous example is when Joe Rogan was talking about Barack Obama. I think Barack Obama mentioned the Suckers and Losers hoax, and Joe Rogan was like, whoa, I used to like Obama, but then he said that, and I was just like, whoa, yeah, nah, you're crazy. You're all crazy. And there's plenty of stories. I think I've shown you guys several of those videos where people have said that. All it takes is somebody looking up the full video clip of Uncle Trump, and mainstream media is cooked, and more people are beginning to do that. And that is a beautiful thing. But I know I've kept y'all here long enough. Thanks for watching to this point. If you are still watching, greatly appreciate you. I know this one's a bit longer than my typical videos, but I appreciate you staying this far. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and your opinions on all of this. Stay safe out there. Peace and love. I'm out.